While I was playing the final shape, I noticed that there was a lot of references to Dante's Inferno. I noticed like a lot of the story beats also follow Dante's Inferno. I'm going to start it off with the references that I think they're like 99% sure are references to Dante's Inferno, and then I'm going to go for the little more out there ones after that. In the DLC, we played the isekai main character of this biblical fanfiction, Dante Alighieri. Taking on the mantle of Virgil is none other than Cade 6.
Well, I'll be damned.
Virgil in Dante's Inferno is a poet that Dante looks up to, who died and is Dante's guide. Also, this guy from Bungie during the reveal stream for the final shape said this.
Cade is Virgil, and he's our guide through this other place.
Which could be nothing. So in Dante's Inferno, Dante travels with Virgil through hell, and as they go through hell, it gets worse and worse as they continue on. And that's very reminiscent of the Pale Heart, because in the Pale Heart, obviously it starts off very bright, very colorful, and then it slowly gets more and more like shitty. Because even in Dante's Inferno, the first circle of hell is Limbo, which is basically just Earth, but it is for people who were either before Christ or were like non-believers, you know what I mean? Like they're not bad people or whatever. And that's actually where Virgil resides, and that's also where we end up finding Cade, because I think that the Lost City is basically the same thing as Limbo. The other circles of hell, I couldn't find like super direct translations. I don't think that Destiny went that far, because if that was the case, the second landing zone, the landing, would be the second circle, which is lust, and there isn't really any references to that. The second circle is described as being windy because it says, as lovers drifted into self-indulgence and were carried away by their passions, so now they drift on forever. So like that's kind of like the whole point, is that it's like windy, you know what I mean? Which I guess you could say it's windy in there. They got the little streamers that they got for like car dealerships hanging up. Those are kind of flapping around. They also got these like hands like caressing each other, but those are fucking everywhere. The third circle is Gluttony, and it's described as icy, and the main thing about it is that Cerberus lives there, and they are constantly being eaten by Cerberus and like eating each other and stuff. But I mean, there's not like a Cerberus thing in Destiny. I mean, there is a part in the mission where you save Crow, and it's not really icy, it's kind of like crystally, so it kind of looks icy. And there is the 3 statues of the wolves, but that's like for Iron Banner. So I guess you could say that if you really want to like squint your eyes, turn your head. The fourth circle would be greed, and I think the closest representation of that would either be like also the same mission with Crow, because he's kind of offered power and wealth, and like that's kind of his whole thing, is that Aldrin was like, you know, he's a prince and he wanted power and wealth and all that jazz, and like he's confronting his previous sin and denying it. And then the other reference to greed could be towards the end, when the witness is trying to like tempt the guardian, talking about giving the guardian power and not making them part of the final shape. I don't really know if that's, you know, like that's super far in for it to be like halfway through the list, you know what I mean? So I don't know if they're really like as linear as the story is, or if they're just kind of jumping all over the place. In Dante's Inferno, the sins severity is like kind of also all over the place. Like violence and wrath are not as bad as stealing. How does that make sense? You know what I mean? The fifth circle is wrath. It's described as like, it's like in the river Styx, and like everything's fighting each other, and there's like stuff sunk under the bottom of the water of the river, and you can like can't even see them, you just see the bubbles of them like screaming out. There's kind of a reference to that. I'm not sure what mission it is. You see like a guardian that's like posed up like he's like throwing down, but he's like, it looks like he's kind of frozen in water. After that is the sixth circle, which is Heresy. Again, I don't think there's a direct kind of translation to that. As far as I know, there's no characters that are involved with the story of the final shape that kind of outright contradict what's said in regards to like the traveler and like the light and darkness. I guess you could say maybe using darkness powers as heresy, so maybe when Zavala goes into that, that's heresy, but I feel like that fits better later down, and I'll get to that in a minute. The seventh circle is violence. Violence is broken up into 3 different like subsections, and then one of them is like violence against yourself. So people who like rode the sewer slide are there, and they are people who got turned into trees, and there's a couple of places early on, like it's very early on, where it's like faces made of trees that you can find. And then ring 3, there is burning sand. There's like little flames falling from the sky. You could kind of interpret that as towards the end there's like the in-between of the missions where you have to get shrouded in darkness in order to be protected from like this. It looks really dusty and you're taking slowly like poison damage. The 8th circle is fraud. I don't got anything for that. It's full of people, like it says sorcerers, which are people that they are like fortune tellers and astrologers and stuff, and then like corrupt politicians and like landlords, like stuff like that. So I mean, Dante's pretty based, but other than that, I don't think there's anything like that in Destiny. And then the 9th circle is treachery or treason, and this one I do think there is like a very solid connection to, because it happens at the very end of the DLC, and it's actually the greatest sin according to Dante, which is treason against God, and God in this case would be the traveler. Like I said earlier, like Zavala, he turns away from the traveler and then he loses his light for nothing, and that's kind of like his punishment for it. The person who also resides in the 9th circle is Satan, and I believe Satan is played by the Witness, and not just because he's like the main bad guy, but because Satan in Dante's Inferno is described to be super huge. Like Dante says that he's closer to the height of a giant than a giant is to the height of Satan. Here's the picture of the size comparison, and then if you look at this image, this is like the overview of like the 9 circles of hell. This is directly from like the illustrated version of the Divine Comedy, and if you look at it, it looks strikingly similar to the Witness, because it starts out with the 9 layers of hell and then it leads down to Satan being at the bottom. And if you look at the Witness, he has all these heads that are coming out from him in a cone shape, and then they lead down to him. At the end of the DLC, you injure the Witness, and the Witness has a yellow mark coming out from the side of his face. And in Dante's Inferno, Satan's described to have 3 faces, the right one being a dark black, the middle one being red, and then the left one being yellow. And the cut that comes out of his face is yellow. Other than that, there's just a couple like little references. Like in Dante's Inferno, there's a lot of people that are stuck, and then throughout the DLC, there's tons of people that are like calcified or stuck and stuff. Like obviously like the tree-faced people earlier, and then everywhere you go, there's different enemies that are statues, and then there's like faces everywhere. And then in Dante's Inferno, in the 9th circle, there's heads that are kind of coming out of the ground because they're just stuck there. In the 7th circle, if people lay down from running around on the hot sand, they get stuck to the ground and can't move. The people in the water in the 5th circle can't really get up if they're pushed under. I forget where, but it's either in the 8th circle or the 6th circle, but there's like old popes and they're stuck in like a human centipede pope hole, and like when a new pope comes, they go down deeper into the hole and then the new pope gets put on top. Basically, that's just a long way of saying people getting stuck is like a very common thing in Dante's Inferno, and then people being frozen is something that the Witness does. But yeah, I wanted to rush this video out because in case there's any other references or it becomes like blatantly clear when the raid comes out that it's just the Divine Comedy or Dante's Inferno. The end of Dante's Inferno, Dante and Virgil end up climbing Satan to get out of hell. So that means the final stand of the Witness in the raid is going to be a platforming section, 100% confirmed. And there's no direct reference to Cerberus, so he's going to be in the raid, so look out for that. Probably got to throw mud in his eyes or something, or his mouth. But yeah, if you see any other kind of references, let me know. I might end up making an like an actual detailed video instead of like one that's rushed, but I don't know, probably not. I just wanted to make this real quick so I could be like, I told you so. And if I'm wrong, like, get off my nuts. I was just joking. Like, I'm just trying to have some fun. But yeah, that's all. See ya.